Arab executive, had no idea he had an African daughter, until he met her at his wife's grave. He stood alone by his wife's grave, flowers trembling in his hands, when a young African woman approached him and whispered the unthinkable, "I'm her daughter, and yours." In that instant, the life of this powerful Arab billionaire, known for controlling empires and never showing weakness, shattered at its core. What followed was a storm of secrets, grief, and a journey that would lead him far beyond wealth, into the depths of human connection, pain, and redemption. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. It helps us bring more unforgettable stories like this one straight to you. Let's dive into a story where one man's empire is shaken not by scandal or business, but by the face of a daughter he never knew existed, standing where love was buried. It had been 3 years since Layla's passing, and yet Nabil Zahrani still visited her grave every week without fail. The cemetery lay on the outskirts of Casablanca, where silence reigned and jasmine bloomed despite the heavy air of loss. Nabil, one of the wealthiest Arab executives in the Middle East, was a man not easily moved. But here, in this place, he let his guard fall. Wearing his tailored grey suit and polished Oxfords, he stood with a bouquet of white roses trembling in his grip. Layla had loved white roses. She had loved many things: Parisian jazz, mango tea, the scent of cedarwood on his skin. But most of all, she'd loved simplicity, something that money could never buy. He knelt to place the flowers on the grave, brushing his fingers over the engraved name, Layla Amsat Zahrani. His breath caught as memories surged, her laughter in the garden, her hands on his chest after long nights, the last time she'd whispered, "Take care of her," before closing her eyes forever. But who was her? He had always thought she meant her dog, Safira, or her younger sister. He'd asked once, but Layla had already slipped into unconsciousness. Now, standing there again, Nabil felt something shift. A presence. He turned. A girl, no, a young woman, stood behind him. Tall, with skin kissed by sun and hair in soft braids that brushed her shoulders. Her eyes, wide, fierce, unsure, looked just like Layla's once had. She wore a simple black dress, and her fingers clutched a photograph folded in two. "I'm sorry," she said, voice almost inaudible. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "You're not," Nabil replied, instinctively polite but puzzled. "Can I help you?" She hesitated. Her fingers trembled, and when she opened the photo, she held it out like a shield. "You don't know me," she said. "But you knew her." She gestured toward the grave. "Layla." Nabil narrowed his eyes. "I was her husband." "I know." The girl stepped forward, unfolded the photo completely, and held it to his chest. Nabil looked down. It was Layla, much younger, holding a newborn baby in her arms. The date on the corner was unmistakable. 24 years ago, before they were married. He froze. "That child," she said, her voice breaking, "is me." The silence was deafening. "I don't understand," he finally whispered. "My name is Amara. I was born in Dakar. My mother, your wife, she never told you about me." Nabil staggered back slightly, his mind racing. "She was in Senegal. Before we met, she lived in Paris. She left Senegal because of me. Her parents disowned her when they found out she was pregnant by a man she wouldn't name. She came to Europe alone. I grew up with her sister for a few years, until she sent me away to boarding school. I thought she didn't want me, until the letter." Nabil stared at the photo, his breath shallow. "What letter?" "She wrote it before she died. I found it only last week. She said she loved me, always had, and that I had the right to meet you, that I deserved to know who you were." Nabil's heart thundered in his chest. He wanted to deny it, to say this was a mistake, some elaborate ploy. But those eyes, those were Layla's. That chin, even the way she stood, proud and vulnerable at once. He couldn't look away. "I didn't come for your money," Amara said quietly. "I don't want anything. I just wanted to know if you'd even care." Nabil turned away, struggling to compose himself. The most powerful man in Dubai, whose signature could sway markets, was now breathless and undone. Not by a business scandal, not by an enemy, but by a daughter standing over his wife's grave, a daughter he never knew he had. He looked up at the sky, lips trembling. "She never told me," he whispered. "She kept this from me." Amara took a cautious step back. "I'm sorry." "No," he said, finally turning to her again. His voice was quiet, hoarse. "Don't be sorry. Just stay." And in that still moment, the sound of the wind through the trees seemed to carry Layla's voice, soft, forgiving, and full of grace. Nabil Zarani sat in the back of his sleek black Mercedes, fingers pressed to his temple as the city of Casablanca blurred outside the window. His driver didn't speak, wisely sensing the air was too heavy to pierce. In his other hand, Nabil still clutched the photograph Amara had handed him. He had stared at it for so long, the edges had begun to crease beneath the pressure of his thumb. He had built his empire by knowing everything, about his rivals, about market moves, about the people he hired. But how had he not known about her? He arrived at his hotel, one of the most luxurious in the city, a towering symbol of the life he had created from dust. The marble lobby, the polished staff, the scent of oud floating faintly in the air. None of it brought him peace tonight. Not after the cemetery. Not after Amara. Up in his penthouse suite, he walked straight to the minibar, but hesitated. He wasn't a man who drank. Layla hadn't liked it. And somehow, even now, her absence still governed him. Instead, he opened the balcony doors and let the warm Moroccan wind rush over him. From 20 stories up, the city lights looked like distant stars. He inhaled deeply. "Amara," he whispered. The name felt strange on his tongue. Foreign, familiar, sacred. He thought of Layla again, how private she had been, how she had never spoken of her past before Paris, how she had carried so much grief behind her smile. He had loved her with everything he had, but maybe he had never truly known her. His phone buzzed. It was a text. Unknown number. "I'm sorry again. If you don't want to see me, I understand. Amara." Nabil stared at the message. His thumb hovered over the screen. Every instinct told him to step away. He was Nabil Zarani, billionaire CEO of Zara Holdings, a man who controlled trade routes, oil ventures, and multi-million-dollar real estate. He didn't have time to sort through secrets buried in graves. But something in that text, "If you don't want to see me," struck a chord. No one had ever given him that choice. Not since Layla died. He typed back, "Meet me for breakfast. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Café Zara, Rue Al-Bustan." He hit send before he could second-guess it. The next morning, the sunlight over Casablanca was soft and golden. The city was waking slowly, its sounds muffled and warm. At Café Zara, a private terrace had been cleared and closed off just for Nabil. A linen tablecloth, freshly brewed coffee, dates and pistachios in porcelain bowls. His guards stood discreetly by the entryway, ensuring the public kept their distance. She arrived at 8:57. Amara wore a modest cream blouse and dark jeans. Her hair was pulled back into a loose braid, and around her neck hung a small gold locket. Nabil stood as she approached. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said softly. "I almost didn't," he admitted. "But here we are." They sat. Silence lingered. The waiter poured their coffee. Neither of them touched it. "You're 24? Nabil finally asked. She nodded. "I turned 24 in April." He calculated silently. Layla had met him in the summer of that same year, so Amara had already been born, and she had never said a word. "Why did she hide you?" he asked, pain in his voice. Amara looked away. "I asked myself that for years. I think she was scared of your world, of what people would say, of what it would mean for you." He clenched his jaw. "I would have taken care of you. You both. No matter what it meant." Amara gave a faint smile. That's what she feared. They sat in silence again, but this time, something was different. The distance between them felt slightly smaller. A bridge was being built, plank by plank, from words neither of them had prepared. "I know who you are," Amara said. "Everyone in Senegal knows your name. I never imagined you would be my father. I never imagined I had a daughter, he replied. Her eyes softened. So, what now? Nabil looked at her, really looked, at the way she carried herself with quiet dignity, at the kindness etched into her features. A girl raised without a father, yet somehow without bitterness. I don't know what you need from me, he said, but you deserve a place in my life, if you want one. I don't need money, she said quickly. I'm not offering it, he replied. I'm offering time, truth, if you're willing. Her eyes shimmered. I'd like that. And just like that, for the first time in years, Nabil Zahrani felt something in his chest begin to heal. Nabil had never been late to a meeting, not once in his 30 years of empire building. But that morning, after breakfast with Amara, he walked into the boardroom of Zara Holdings 12 minutes past the hour. 12 minutes that would not go unnoticed. His executives stiffened as he entered. There were murmurs, exchanged glances. His personal assistant, Mariam, subtly closed the leather portfolio she had been about to review. But Nabil didn't explain himself. He simply adjusted his cufflinks, took his seat at the head of the long table, and began with a quiet, "Let's proceed." But he wasn't fully there. As reports about quarterly revenues and West African expansions floated around the room, his mind kept returning to her. Amara. The way she had tucked her braid behind her ear when she spoke. The light in her voice when she described her mother's favorite books. She had remembered details about Layla that even he had forgotten. And it haunted him. He should have been there for her first birthday, her first heartbreak, her first everything. Instead, she had grown up fatherless, while he sat in penthouses and private jets, thinking he'd given Layla the world. "Mr. Zahrani?" Nabil blinked. "Yes?" It was Nadim, his chief strategy officer, who was watching him carefully. "You signed off on the Lagos project last week, sir, but there's been an issue. The new investor is requesting direct access to your office." Nabil frowned. "Which investor?" "Amara Holdings," Nadim replied. "They recently acquired a minority stake in the West Africa division. The CEO is requesting a one-on-one." The name hit him like ice water. "Amara?" he repeated too sharply. Mariam hesitated before clarifying. "Not your daughter, sir. Amara Holdings is led by an American-Senegalese entrepreneur named Daniel Touré. Young, bold, very driven." He nodded slowly. "Set the meeting." Still, the coincidence disturbed him. After the meeting adjourned, Nabil remained seated as the room emptied. He reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out the photo again. Layla and the baby, Amara, her tiny hand grasping Layla's scarf. The edges were more worn now than yesterday. "Sir?" Mariam lingered by the door. "Yes?" I don't mean to intrude, but is everything all right? Nabil looked up. Mariam had been with him for over 15 years. She had known Layla. She had seen him at his highest and lowest. If there was anyone in this world who could read the silence between his words, it was her. "I met someone," he said carefully. Her brows lifted, surprised. "Oh?" "My daughter." Mariam's lips parted, but she didn't speak right away. Then softly, she said, "Layla's daughter?" He nodded. "I always wondered," she whispered. She used to carry a little bracelet in her purse, with an A on it. Nabil's heart dropped. "You never said anything." "She never invited the question," Mariam said. "And you never invited doubt." There it was. The truth, plain and sharp. He had built his life on precision, on knowing the answers before the questions were asked. But when it came to the one person he had truly loved, he had been blind. He stood up. "I need the jet prepped." Mariam blinked. "Now?" "I want to visit Dakar." "Should I inform Miss Amara?" "No," he said. "I'm not going to see her. I want to see where she grew up. I want to walk the places Layla walked when she was alone, when she was scared, when she was pregnant with my child." For the first time in decades, his voice broke. "I need to understand what I never cared enough to ask." Mariam nodded gently, then left to make the arrangements. That night, Amara sat alone in her small hotel room, still unsure what to feel. The breakfast had gone better than she expected, but not perfectly. Her father, if she could even call him that, was a complicated man. Kind, but reserved. Open, but armored. And yet for the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. There had been a moment, just a flicker, when he'd looked at her, and something in him had softened. Like a dam cracking. She didn't know what would come next, but for the first time in 24 years, she dared to hope. Dakar was not what Nabil expected. From the moment his private jet touched down at Blaise Diagne International Airport, the air felt heavier, not with heat, but with meaning. This wasn't just a business trip. This was a walk into a past he had never seen, a version of Layla he had never known, and a life his daughter had lived without him. He wore no suit this time, just a pale linen shirt, sleeves rolled up, and dark trousers. A black baseball cap shadowed his face. No bodyguards, no entourage, only Mariam by his side, acting as his silent witness. They rode through the heart of the city in a modest car, the traffic chaotic but rhythmic, the streets alive with color and motion. Vendors called out with trays of roasted peanuts. Children weaved through cars with cracked soccer balls, the scent of grilled fish mixed with the salty breeze from the Atlantic. Mariam pointed. "That's the school she mentioned. Santa Claire." Nabil asked the driver to stop. He stepped out and walked toward the gate. A nun, older with kind eyes, greeted him in French. He asked for permission to enter the courtyard and explained that he had a personal connection to a former student. Amara Amsat, he said. She studied here over a decade ago. The nun blinked, then smiled gently. Yes. A bright girl. A bit shy, but always kind. She didn't have many visitors. Nabil's chest tightened. Did her mother ever come? Once, the nun said. She stayed outside the gate, watched from a distance. He looked through the rusted iron bars. He imagined Layla standing exactly there, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, watching her child through that fence. Unable to enter, maybe afraid, maybe ashamed. Did Amara ever talk about her father? He asked. The nun shook her head. Only once. She said he was somewhere in the world building palaces, while she lived in a house of silence. Those words burned like fire. They drove next to the neighborhood of Medina, where Layla had rented a small room during her final years in Dakar. The house was still there, a crumbling beige building tucked between two stores, its facade marked by time and rain. A woman in her 50s came to the door when they knocked. Her name was Mame Diarra, and she had been Layla's neighbor. She was quiet, the woman said, always writing, always praying. She kept to herself. Did she speak of her daughter? Nabil asked. Only when she cried. She sent her away for a better life, she said. A life far from here, far from pain. Mame Diarra led them to the back of the building, where a small garden struggled to grow under the Dakar sun. She used to sit here every evening, said it reminded her of someone who once promised her peace. Nabil swallowed hard. That had been his promise. He crouched near the edge of the dry soil, fingers grazing the earth. There, half buried beneath a dying hibiscus bush, was a rusted tin box. Mame Diarra didn't know it was there. He opened it slowly. Inside were two things: a faded envelope with "Poor Louis" scrawled across the front, and a beaded bracelet with a small golden letter, A. His hands trembled. The letter was written in Layla's handwriting. He knew it instantly. The loops, the careful strokes. As he opened the envelope, the paper crackled like it had been waiting decades to speak. If you are reading this, then I failed to be brave enough in life. I kept a part of myself hidden, afraid it would change how you saw me, afraid it would change how you loved me. Amara was not a mistake. She was my salvation. But I was too scared to bring her into your world. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe you would have loved her even more than you loved me. If so, forgive me. Nabil read it twice, then again. Forgive me. The words looped in his head as if whispered by the wind. Mariam stood behind him, silent, as tears began to fall freely down his cheeks. That night, back in his hotel room overlooking the ocean, Nabil called Amara. She answered on the first ring. Hello? I went to Dakar, he said simply. To your school, your old home. I found something your mother left for me. Silence. I thought I knew everything, he continued, voice thick. But I knew nothing. Amara whispered, You went all the way there. For me? I went for her, he said, but I found you. A pause. I wish she could see this, Amara murmured. She does, Nabil said softly. And I think she's the one guiding us now. In the darkness, across thousands of miles, the line remained quiet. But something had shifted. The past was no longer just a shadow. It was a bridge, leading them both toward something neither of them dared believe they could still have a future. The lobby of Zara Holdings in Dubai was not built for subtlety. It soared with glass walls that captured the desert sun and marble floors that echoed each step like a declaration. Beneath a chandelier, shaped like a cascading wave of light, Amara stood in silence, her palms damp, her heart knocking against her ribs. She was no stranger to power. As a rising advocate for sustainable development in West Africa, she'd spoken on global panels, negotiated with CEOs. But this was different. Today, she was stepping into her father's empire, not as an employee, not as a guest, but as a daughter. Her invitation had come 3 days after their phone call from Dakar. A simple message from Mariam. Mr. Zahrani requests your presence at Zahra Holdings. 10 a.m. Formal attire. Now, the elevator doors opened. Mariam waited at the top floor, composed and elegant in her charcoal hijab. Miss Amara, he's ready for you. She followed Mariam through a hallway lined with art curated from across the Arab world. Calligraphy in gold, desert landscapes in oil, sculptures from Lebanon and Syria. It was beautiful, imposing. It smelled like ode and legacy. And then she entered. The office was vast, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the skyline. Nabil stood behind his desk, arms crossed loosely, dressed in a navy thobe. He looked at her not like a stranger, but not quite like a father either. Something in between, something becoming. Amara, he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. Thank you for coming. She sat, smoothing the front of her dress. I wanted us to speak here, he continued, because this is where I've made every decision of my life, good and bad, and because today I want to make one I should have made years ago. She swallowed. I'm listening. He opened a leather folder and slid it across the table. Inside was a document, official, notarized. Her name was printed in bold. Amara Amsat Zahrani. Her eyes widened. I'm adding you to my will, Nabil said. Not just that. You'll inherit the controlling shares of Zara Impact, our development and sustainability branch. I've built it for 10 years. You'll shape it for the next 50. Amara blinked. stunned. I don't know what to say. I'm not doing this to buy your affection, he said gently. I'm doing this because you're brilliant, because you fought your way here with grace, and because Layla would want this. She'd want you to know that you're not someone's secret. You're someone's legacy. Tears pricked her eyes. You don't even know me fully. I didn't know me fully either, he replied, until you came. They sat in silence for a long beat, the city pulsing quietly outside. Then Nabil exhaled. There's something else. Her chest tightened. Someone leaked to the press, he said, voice tightening. They're running with the story. Zahrani executive allegedly fathered secret daughter in Africa. It'll be everywhere by tonight. Amara's stomach dropped. I have lawyers preparing statements, he added. But I wanted you to hear it from me first. She looked down. People will say I only came for your money. They already are, he replied. Let them. They don't know what I saw in Dakar. They don't know about the bracelet. A flicker of warmth returned. You kept it? Of course, he said. It's in my jacket pocket. She smiled faintly, tears now spilling freely. I don't care what they say, she whispered. I didn't come here to be seen by the world. I came here to be seen by you. And for the first time since she'd stepped into that towering office, Nabil stood up, walked around the desk, and opened his arms. She rose, and they embraced, awkwardly at first, then fiercely, fully, as though time could be rewritten in the spaces between heartbeats. Later that evening, Nabil sat on his balcony, watching the city lights come alive. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown contact. She's not who you think she is. Ask her what she's hiding. He frowned, staring at the message. His fingers hovered over the keys. But before he could reply, a second message came in. She's not alone, and neither are you. He set the phone down slowly. The past was no longer the only thing catching up to him. Someone was watching. Night settled over Dubai like a curtain of tension. Nabil stared at the anonymous messages as the warm wind pushed through the curtains. He didn't know who was behind the words, but the carefully hidden world he had built was now cracking open. The next morning, as Amara prepared for her first press event as an official part of Zara Holdings, Nabil received a manila envelope left anonymously at reception. Inside were old photos of Layla, smiling, laughing, with another man. A name, Daniel Toure, the same man who ran Amara Holdings. His breath caught. Had Amara known? Or was she being used? For the first time, he didn't trust his own heart. The conference was packed. Amara stood poised in white, speaking about sustainable innovation with quiet authority. Nabil watched from the back, torn between pride and suspicion. After the applause, he asked to speak with her privately. He showed her the photos. Did you know about Daniel? She froze. Yes. He raised me after my mother sent me away. He mentored me, but he never wanted you. He only wanted control. Nabil's jaw tightened. Then why show up now? Her voice softened. Because he's afraid of what I'm becoming. And because this time, I choose you. The weight lifted, but danger was still close. Early the next morning, Nabil was ambushed outside his building. 2 masked men shoved him against a car, whispering threats. Stay out of Dakar. Minutes later, Amara arrived with Mariam and found him bloodied, shaken, but standing. It was him, wasn't it? She asked. Nabil nodded. He made a mistake, he said through clenched teeth. He thought I was alone. Amara reached for his hand. You're not anymore. In that moment, they weren't just father and daughter. They were something stronger, unbreakable. Months later, Zara Impact had become a global model for sustainable collaboration between Africa and the Middle East. Amara, now its official head, stood on stage at the United Nations, her words clear, fearless. Nabil sat in the front row, chest tight with emotion. At the end, she looked directly at him and said, "To the man who gave me a name, and then gave me the world." The crowd rose in applause. Nabil stood quietly, tears in his eyes. Outside, as the sun set, he reached into his pocket and held the tiny bracelet with the gold A. He whispered to the wind, "Layla, she honored you, and now, through her, we both live on." If this story inspired you, remember, courage and compassion can heal even the deepest wounds. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who believes in second chances, and in the family we choose to love.